In May 2023, a Google senior engineer wrote an internal memo that was not supposed to leave the building. It got leaked. The opening line was, "We have no moat, and neither does OpenAI." That was 2 years ago. Since then, Google's market cap crossed $2 trillion. Microsoft is near $3 trillion. Meta is the best performing major stock of the decade. Every big tech company declared artificial intelligence their top priority, committed hundreds of billions to it, and posted record profits. So was the memo wrong? Not exactly. And understanding why is the most important business story happening right now. For 20 years, big tech was protected by three structural advantages that compounded on each other. Data. Google had decades of search queries. Facebook had mapped the social graph of 2 billion people. Amazon knew what everyone bought and when. You couldn't compete without this data, and you couldn't get it because they already had it. Every search query made Google smarter automatically. Infrastructure. Running services at global scale required data centers on every continent and billions in hardware. Startups simply couldn't match it. Talent. The best engineers and researchers went where the resources and the pay were. A $2 million salary plus access to the world's largest compute clusters is hard to compete with. These three advantages reinforced each other in a loop that ran for 2 decades. The big got bigger. Competition was essentially impossible. Then artificial intelligence rewrote the rules in ways nobody fully anticipated, including the people inside these companies. The data moat cracked first. It turns out you don't necessarily need proprietary data when you have the entire public internet. Models trained on publicly available text and code proved competitive with, and sometimes superior to, models trained on supposedly irreplaceable private data sets. Google's search history and Facebook's social graph were less of an advantage in model training than anyone expected. The infrastructure moat cracked next, and in a counterintuitive way, training frontier models still requires massive compute, but running them doesn't. The most capable systems in the world are available through API that any startup can access for pennies per query. According to Stanford's 2025 AI Index, inference costs have fallen between 9 and 900 times in the past 2 years, depending on the task. Infrastructure advantage is becoming a commodity. The talent moat cracked most visibly. The Google memo was written by Luke Cerno, a senior engineer, not some mid-level analyst. His core argument that open source communities were closing the gap faster than proprietary labs could pull ahead has largely proven correct. Stanford's 2025 AI Index found the performance gap between the top-ranked and 10th-ranked AI models shrank from nearly 12% to just over 5% in a single year. The gap between open weight and closed proprietary models fell from 8% to under 2% on key benchmarks. Researchers are now leaving big tech because they can access the compute they need without a corporate patron. Nothing illustrated this more starkly than what happened in January 2025. A Chinese artificial intelligence lab called DeepSeek released a model that matched or beat GPT-4 on several major benchmarks, including mathematical reasoning and coding. Then came the number that stopped the industry. Their training cost was approximately $6 million. OpenAI's GPT-4 cost an estimated $100 million or more. Google's Gemini Ultra, closer to $200 million. When DeepSeek topped the Apple App Store as the most downloaded free app, displacing ChatGPT, NVIDIA lost nearly $600 billion in market cap in a single day, the largest single-day market cap loss in American stock market history. Because DeepSeek didn't just prove a Chinese lab could build a competitive model, it challenged the assumption underlying hundreds of billions in infrastructure investment that frontier artificial intelligence requires massive compute spending. And they did it while operating under US chip export restrictions specifically designed to slow them down. The restrictions didn't stop them. They apparently forced more efficient engineering. Here's where the story gets more complicated than big tech is falling. The response from these companies has been the most aggressive capital deployment in tech history. Microsoft put $10 billion into OpenAI. Google invested $2 billion in Anthropic. Amazon put in $4 billion more. Big tech's combined capital expenditure on artificial intelligence infrastructure is projected to exceed $500 billion in 2026 alone. Meta's move is worth understanding separately. They released their Llama model family as open source, essentially trying to become the Linux of artificial intelligence. The logic: if an open source standard wins and you built it, you don't control a product, you shape an ecosystem. That's a different kind of moat. But here's the honest tension sitting under all of this. OpenAI is reportedly on track to lose $5 billion in 2025, nearly 10 times its losses in 2022. Analysts estimate hyperscalers collectively need roughly $600 billion in new artificial intelligence revenue just to justify their infrastructure spending. The investment is enormous. The returns are not yet proportional, and open source keeps closing the gap. Mistral, a French startup with fewer than 500 employees, regularly releases models that compete with systems that cost orders of magnitude more to build. So is big tech falling? No. These companies are still the most valuable in history. Their cloud businesses are growing. Their products have hundreds of millions of users. But are they facing genuine structural vulnerability for the first time in 2 decades? Yes. The moats that made them unassailable are each eroding in ways that are measurable and accelerating. The question isn't whether big tech will disappear. It's whether the advantages that made them unbeatable in 2015 still make them unbeatable in 2030. The honest answer is that nobody knows. That uncertainty is itself new. The memo Google wrote to itself said the uncomfortable truth is that we aren't positioned to win this arms race. 2 years later, they've spent hundreds of billions trying to prove it wrong. Whether they succeed is the most consequential business question of the decade. If this breakdown changed how you see what's happening in tech, subscribe and drop a comment. Do you think the incumbents hold their lead, or does the field open up? I want to know where you stand.